Imagine waking up to a reality no model ever predicted. 7 billion gallons of water appearing without warning inside California's most critical reservoir. No storms. No upstream releases. Every standard explanation failing at once. In this scenario, Lake Oroville's monitoring network begins sounding alarms at 2:17 a.m., cutting through the early morning silence. Within 4 hours, water levels surge 23 feet higher than any forecast allowed for. The shoreline pushes more than 60 feet inland, swallowing docks, submerging benches, and erasing landmarks locals have used for generations to judge the lake's rise and fall. What force beneath the ground could drive such an immense volume upward? Why did seismic sensors record tremors at the exact moment the surge began? And if the dam was engineered only to handle water flowing in from above, what happens when pressure builds from below the lakebed itself? The first technicians to notice the anomaly would assume a malfunction. Sensor failure is always the most likely explanation. They would recheck primary instruments, then cross-reference backup systems. The numbers would match perfectly. Manual verification would confirm what no one wants to accept. Water is entering the reservoir from underground. And this would only be the start. In this hypothetical crisis, the Eastern Basin would begin revealing clues that defy engineering doctrine. Crews arriving at dawn would find the intake tower skimming ripples that should still be 20 feet below. Buoys would have drifted far from their mapped positions. Concrete benches installed during the historic 2021 drought, when the lake fell to just 22% capacity, would now be fully submerged beneath rising water. Investigators would methodically eliminate every known cause. Weather radar would show clear skies across the entire Sierra Nevada watershed. Upstream reservoirs, including New Bullard's Bar and Antelope Lake, would report unchanged, stable levels. Satellite imagery would reveal no landslides, debris flows, or visible disturbances anywhere in the Feather River Basin. Surface hydrology would offer no answers. The conclusion would grow unavoidable. Something beneath the reservoir floor had opened access to an unknown water source. The volume alone would suggest a source of staggering scale, forcing its way upward through fractured bedrock. This contradicts the most basic assumptions of hydrology. Every established model insists water flows downhill, not upward through solid rock. Yet geological research has documented rare conditions where deeply pressurized aquifers can drive water upward along fault systems, a phenomenon theoretically possible beneath any major reservoir. And in this scenario, the water does not stop rising. Lake Oroville is not just another reservoir. It is the most important storage component of California's State Water Project, capable of holding 3.54 million acre-feet at full capacity, 61% of the entire system. More than 27 million Californians depend on its flows for drinking water, agriculture, and industry. The dam itself towers 770 feet, making it the tallest dam in the United States and 43 feet higher than Hoover Dam. Its hydroelectric facilities generate power for roughly 800,000 homes. During dry years, precisely timed releases travel hundreds of miles through the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta, sustaining farms across the Central Valley and cities throughout Southern California. A failure here would not remain local. It would cascade through the state's water infrastructure within days. That is why unexplained behavior at Oroville triggers immediate statewide concern. What follows would unsettle even veteran scientists. Communities along the Feather River share a collective trauma rooted in documented history. On February 7, 2017, operators noticed a massive cavity forming in Oroville's main spillway during routine flood releases. As storms continued and inflows exceeded 250,000 cubic feet per second, water poured over the emergency's spillway for the first time in the dam's 49-year history. The hillside beneath it eroded far faster than anticipated. Headward erosion threatened the stability of the concrete weir itself. Officials warned that failure could unleash a 30-foot wall of water downstream. On February 12, 2017, nearly 188,000 residents in Butte, Yuba, and Sutter counties were evacuated, the largest dam evacuation ever recorded in the United States. Repairs ultimately surpassed $1 billion. Independent forensic investigations later concluded the disaster resulted from decades of overlooked design weaknesses and deteriorating conditions. Less than 10 years later, emergency sirens would once again carry psychological weight. For survivors, alarm tones are not background noise. They trigger memory. Communities that once watched the nation's tallest dam nearly fail never fully recovered their trust. That fracture never closed. Warning signs would already be forming. In a crisis like this, the California Department of Water Resources would activate emergency protocols, collecting secured water samples from multiple depths. Independent laboratories would analyze chemical signatures for anomalies. Decades of geochemical research show that water originating from deep crustal environments carries distinct markers. Elevated lithium and boron levels are well-known indicators of geothermal systems and deep formation waters. Peer-reviewed studies in journals such as Geochemistry, Geophysics, Geosystems demonstrate that rare earth element ratios can reveal water that has migrated through hot, pressurized rock for thousands of years. Oxygen isotope analysis, a standard tool for tracing water origin, could determine whether the signature matches Sierra Nevada precipitation or something far older. Minerals formed under sustained heat and pressure would further confirm deep origins. If such markers appeared at Oroville, it would mean the water had not recently fallen from the sky. It had risen from far below. But the ground itself might hold another warning. Seismologists reviewing continuous monitoring data could notice what initially seems coincidental, a swarm of micro-earthquakes beneath the basin. Tremors too small to feel. Magnitudes between 0.8 and 1.4, yet impossible to dismiss due to their timing. Geological surveys have long identified fault systems beneath the Oroville region. Research into fault-controlled fluid migration shows that under sufficient pressure differences, even microscopic fracture widening can permit enormous fluid movement. Global studies of deep aquifers demonstrate that fractures expanding by many millimeters can transmit thousands of cubic feet per second when connected to pressurized reservoirs. A correlation between tremor timing and water arrival would suggest conduits opening, pathways forming, and something deep underground forcing its way upward. Engineers would then confront a threat more frightening than earthquakes or floods: internal erosion, known as piping. This occurs when water infiltrates an earthfill dam and begins carrying soil particles away. The process starts invisibly. Microscopic channels form. Each particle removed widens the pathway, accelerating flow until collapse becomes inevitable. According to the International Commission on Large Dams, internal erosion accounts for nearly half of all embankment dam failures worldwide. The Association of State Dam Safety Officials warns that piping is especially dangerous because visible signs may be minimal or absent until just hours before failure. The Teton Dam disaster in Idaho illustrates this danger. On June 5, 1976, workers noticed muddy seepage at 7:30 a.m. By 11:55 a.m., the dam had completely failed, releasing roughly 80 billion gallons of water and killing 11 people. The 305-foot structure was filling for the first time when permeable foundation materials and fractured rhyolite allowed water to migrate, eroding soil until collapse was unavoidable. Oroville, also an earthfill dam built on complex Sierra Nevada geology, shares unsettling similarities. Any unexplained surge would immediately raise red flags. Additional warning signs could follow. Downstream drainage flows might appear unusually cloudy, indicating abnormal sediment transport. Pressure sensors embedded within the dam could register values outside historical norms. Based on lessons from 2017, certain readings might echo patterns seen in the months leading up to that near disaster, history insisting these signals demand immediate action. Now picture someone living on the front line, a longtime resident along Pine Ridge Road, overlooking the eastern shore. Someone who remembers the fear of 2017, late-night phone calls, endless headlights streaming south on Highway 70, and a promise never to be caught unprepared again. On the morning after such a surge, they would walk to their familiar overlook and freeze. The shoreline would have shifted. Trusted reference points used for decades would be underwater. Trees once 20 feet from the waterline would now feel waves brushing their trunks. They would not wait for evacuation orders. Within hours, bags would be packed, documents secured, vehicles loaded. They would leave voluntarily, choosing certainty over official hesitation. "I watched the spillway nearly destroy this town once," they might say quietly. "I won't watch it again from a rooftop." Across the region, others would reach the same conclusion. Submerged docks and mud-covered roads could isolate entire neighborhoods. Escape routes people rely on might vanish beneath rising water. Environmental scientists would warn of cascading ecological damage. Rapid water level shifts increase turbidity, which studies show can smother salmon spawning beds. The Feather River Fish Hatchery, supporting fisheries responsible for nearly 20% of Pacific commercial and sport catches, would face severe disruption. Sediment disturbance could resuspend heavy metals settled over decades, contaminating the food chain. The situation could unravel faster than response teams could mobilize. As night falls in this scenario, the lake behaves strangely. Despite calm winds, whitecaps ripple across the surface. Additional rise is recorded between sunset and midnight. The water churns in swirling patterns, suggesting turbulence far below, as if something continues feeding the surge from beneath. Then the dam begins to sing. Technicians monitoring acoustic sensors detect high-frequency emissions emanating from within the structure. Engineering research confirms that stressed materials emit acoustic signals, rhythmic pulses produced as structures adjust under changing loads. Such emissions could signal forces acting on the dam beyond anything its designers anticipated. Oroville Dam was engineered exclusively for surface inflows. Every calculation, safety margin, and stress model assumed water would enter only through the Feather River and its tributaries. There is no precedent in dam engineering literature for massive bottom-fed injection from deep aquifers. No historical case explains how an earthfill embankment responds when pressure builds simultaneously from above and below. Engineering manuals offer no guidance. The dam would be operating outside its design envelope. Every safety factor assumed a world where water obeys predictable rules. Analyzing emergency data would take weeks. Meanwhile, water levels would keep rising. Engineers would race against physics, struggling to understand a phenomenon textbooks insist should not happen. Independent consultants would deploy hydroacoustic imaging and install additional pressure transducers throughout the structure, attempting to determine whether the threat comes from external seepage through natural fractures or internal piping undermining the dam from within. But science moves slowly. Water does not. The central question would remain unresolved. Is this a geological gift, an unexpected infusion from ancient aquifers offering relief from chronic drought? Or is it a warning of catastrophe, signaling destabilization beneath the state's most critical dam? In the absence of answers, speculation would spread. Some might suggest hidden subsurface cavities collapsing under immense pressure. Others would point to volcanic conduit theories, with magma acting as a piston forcing groundwater upward. Still others would whisper about long-buried construction flaws or forgotten drilling incidents. The truth might remain unknown, perhaps unknowable in time to respond. What scientists do know is rooted in decades of research. Deep aquifer systems permeate California's geology. Chemical signatures can conclusively identify water that has spent millennia underground. Microearthquakes along fault systems can open fluid pathways. Internal pressure shifts generate measurable stress responses. Acoustic emissions reveal when embankments are under strain. What remains unknown is almost everything else. Where exactly is the water entering? How long would the flow continue? How vast is the underground source? What happens if pressure keeps building beneath the dam? The limits of modern subsurface imaging mean these questions might not be answered until the crisis resolves, one way or another. Humanity has long believed engineering could tame nature. We have built monuments to that belief across rivers, fault lines, and unstable landscapes worldwide. For decades, they have held. But beneath reservoirs like Oroville lie forces far older than civilization itself. Water that fell as rain before humans existed still moves through deep rock, following pathways we have never fully mapped, capable of emerging where we least expect. The dam rises 770 feet. Below it, 27 million people depend on its flows. Above it, a lake holds water we assume we understand. This scenario poses a question not just for California, but for every major dam on Earth. Would anyone recognize the final warning before it was too late?